Okay, so I've been playing Vanguard Zero, much like you, for around 4 or 5 months now, and as I've been enjoying the game, trying my best to be as good as I can be, because of all the content and life stuff, I haven't really had time to compete and test my skills in this game. Well, this past weekend, I decided to put away all the work and just focus on competing in this game and doing the best I can to actually succeed. And not only did I get top 4, I also walked away with some cash. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Steven Rodriguez. I am your true champion, and in today's video, I'll be walking you guys through my top 4 finish in the Vanguard Zero Cash Tournament I partook in this past weekend. Let's get started. Boom! That's right, boys and girls. Like I said in the intro, I partook in the Juan Mango 64 Vanguard Zero Cash Tournament this past weekend. Huge shout out to him. He hosted the whole thing on his Twitch channel. It was like a 10+ hour event, 64 players, $400 cash pot for the top 8. It was honestly insane. The format of the tournament was double elimination, 2-deck format, best 2 out of 3, and then I think the grand finals was best 3 out of 5. Super hype, super intense. Honestly, a really fun, competitive atmosphere for this game. Not only did we have content creators like me, we also had high-level ranked players and just general members of the community that saw the ad for a really cool tournament and they're like, you know what? This is a chance for me to test my skills and maybe win some money for playing this game that I love. Why would I not go for it? It was honestly a super fun tournament and really was challenging because the whole double elimination aspect made some people work really hard to get the placements that they got, because if you don't know how it works, basically it's like single elimination, but the first time you lose, instead of being kicked out of the tournament, you're put into a second bracket called the loser's bracket, and if you win all your games after that, you have a shot at beating the winner's champion and becoming the overall grand champion. Sadly, due to some horrible damage checks as well as me drawing all my heal triggers, I lost in the 3rd round, but thanks to the double elimination style of tournament, I was able to fight my way all the way up to the losers semifinals, I think, where I inevitably lost again to 6 damage heals, but you know what? It's fine. I'm not salty. I was in the middle of a salty run back, and it's fine. But I was very pleased with my performance. I think by the end of it, I was the person that had the 2nd most wins of anyone. I could be wrong about that. I'll show a screenshot on screen in case you guys want to see my final score, like numbers of wins and losses and stuff. But overall, the experience was amazing, and I'm very happy with my performance, especially given that I didn't prepare that much for this tournament, because I don't know if you guys could tell, I've been doing a lot of different kinds of projects on my channel as well as in life. I'm currently working on getting a career in the United States Navy, as well as doing a lot of Digimon TCG competitive stuff, so I really haven't had that much time to work on my Zero game or my Zero collection of decks. So I ended up bringing just 2 decks that I felt really confident with, and I didn't really change the lists for the tournament or anything. Looking back, I could have changed a couple of things in my Narukami deck list, but I'll talk about that when we talk about the lists that I used. But overall, still very happy with my performance and cannot wait to partake in some more tournaments in the future. So I'm sure you guys are wondering, Steven, what is the plan for today's video? Are you just gonna blab about how amazing you did for the Vanguard Zero tournament? Yes, I am, but I'm also going to show you guys the decks that I used, kind of go through the matchup spreads, my thought process for picking these 2 decks, and then I'll show you guys a game or 2 from the actual tournament itself that I played in, and sort of commentate on my plays and my opponent's plays, and just discuss the overall thought process of each thing, so that way you can see me use these decks and how I play with them, maybe differently than I played them in the past. So if you guys are excited for my first tournament report in Vanguard Zero in a long time, be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications so that way you guys know when my videos go live for you. I do all kinds of Vanguard, TCG, Vanguard Zero content here in the channel, and if you're interested in that kind of stuff, subscribing is always an option. Also, I didn't actually stream any of the games that I played personally during this tournament, but I think the next time I will, because this was a very hype thing for me to do, and the fact that I couldn't share it with you guys live and in person, I felt kind of bad about. So the next time I partake in a tournament for Vanguard Zero, I'll be sure to stream the entire thing, so that way you guys can have my full perspective and not just like these nitpicks that I have to get from the main stream itself. But with all that being said, you guys, let's go ahead and take a look at the 2 decks that I used in the Juan Mango 64 birthday celebration Vanguard Zero tournament. Alright boys and girls, here we are in my deck builder. Now as you can see here, the two decks that I use at the very top of your screen here are Nerfed, my MLB deck, and Narukami, my Narukami deck. I had a bunch of choices between decks. I didn't want to use my Great Nature deck list, even though that's my favorite deck right now out of set 7, because it is incomplete. I don't have any of the cards that I really need to use it. I'm lacking Polaris, I'm lacking Vocal Chickens for that extra defense, and I'm just kind of lacking a sort of clear picture with how to use the deck right now. While I do like the list that I profiled for you guys the other day and the other list that I profiled for you way back in JP, I think there are some other evolutions that I could make to the deck that I'm currently working on, and so until I make those changes, I'm not going to commit to Great Nature anytime soon. And everything else I had, whether it was Dote, Pale Moon, Angel Feather, I did consider it actually, Shadow Paladins, not Shadow Duke, but Cross Ride PBO, because that's better in best 2 out of 3 like this tournament was. So I had all these options, and what it came down to was, okay, I'm most comfortable with Narukami, so I'm bringing that because I think it can handle most anything. I was worried about like really rogue stuff like Pale Moon, the occasional Angel Feather, maybe other Narukami decks, and so I wanted to make sure that I had an answer for those things. I also was considering Spike Brothers to kind of serve the same purpose as Narukami, but I ultimately went with Narukami for the more flexible plays it has versus Spike Brothers, because while I do love Spikes right now, I feel like it gets hard counted by a lot of things that have inherent crit, like D-Police, MLB, or Shadows. And then all that was left was my Anger or my second deck, and my big two choices were Shadow Paladin PBO or Royal Paladin MLB, and I'm equally comfortable with these decks. I played them a lot all the way back in set 4 format, as well as pretty much set 5 and set 6 format, so I was very confident with these lists. I felt like they were equal in terms of power and placing in the tournament, so I flipped a coin. Yes, I did. I flipped a coin, and it landed heads. Heads was MLB, so I chose MLB. That is the honest truth, boys and girls. That is what picked these two decks for me, because honestly, I was equally comfortable with both of them, and I felt really good going in. I felt like thanks to my MLB deck, I could handle the hardcore limit break decks, and because it was an open deck list tournament, I could find out if my opponents were playing damage ads or if they weren't, so I could know if I wanted to commit to damage denying them. I could know if MLB was a bad matchup or a good matchup, so if it was a good matchup, I could commit to it first, move with it fast, and then have 2 tries with Narukami, the admittedly less consistent deck. But if it was a bad matchup, I could play with Narukami first, try and get the bad matchup out the way, and then have MLB give it 2 tries against whatever's left and hope for the best. So that was my thought process for picking the decks. Let's actually look at the lists. Now, the main deck that I led off with every single round was MLB, because most of the time people were playing Aqua Force, and so they would lead with Aqua Force, and I thought MLB had a really good Aqua Force matchup. I only lost to 1 Aqua Force the entire day, ended up being the guy that actually won the tournament. Turns out you can only beat a true champion with another champion, so that checks out. Here's the actual list. This is pretty much your standard MLB nerfed list. We're playing Libregal, No Wingull Brave, we're playing the 3 Marin, the 2K. There were some interesting MLB lists that I saw in the tournament actually. W Slasher, a fellow Vanguard content creator, I had the pleasure of playing against his Garmor MLB deck. And when I say Garmor MLB, I mean one Garmor. He played 1 Garmor, but he played 4 Snowgull. I imagine the reasoning behind this was so Snowgull could be a really good booster, because if you have 3 Snowgulls in your back row, they're all 9k boosters. You can make your Vanguard hit 21 on your MLB if he's 12k. Super cool. Plus, you have Garmor, so late game you can just ride Garmor and have the extra intercepts from your back row. Honestly, a pretty cool deck, and I will be playing in the future because that's really fun. Anywho, here's my list. The one spicy thing I did was I cut a 4th star call for a 2nd copy of Bedivere, because I wanted to have a 1 card that I could commit to the board that could hit pretty much anything in the format, because I was worried about back row pokes. I didn't want to conserve as many grade 1s. If I ever drew Liens, I wanted to ditch boosters, and I felt more comfortable doing that as long as I had more grade 2s or grade 3s that I could commit to the board that could hit by themselves. Otherwise, very standard MLB. I'm not playing Kingdom Knights. I'd rather play Alfred Early, because Kingdom Knights Counterblast 3 is too much for me. Having Alfred Early be equally as good as a +1, I think is super nice. He never came up. They never come up. But yeah, guys, that's my MLB list. This thing came in clutch. Gancelot, filtering, retire effects, inherent crit. It has everything it needs to still to take on this format, and honestly, it's probably the best deck you can play in any best 2 out of 3 scenario. And finally, we have the Narukami deck. Now, while I don't regret playing Narukami for this tournament, there were many matches where I played this deck perfectly and it had the amazing response and aggression that it needed to kind of respond to my opponent. I do regret some choices I made with the deck. First choice I made, I played 2 crits. I wanted to be spicy, okay. I felt like because I had a really cool, consistent deck in MLB, I could keep my spicy 2 crit that I play all the time in streams. That was a mistake. It should just be 9 draws. It should always be 9 draws in tournaments. That was my mistake. The crits never came up, they were never useful, and frankly, I drew them more than I checked them, so that's a problem. The second thing I kind of regret is the 4 Stormy. I think Stormy's still a better card than Raiden. I would maybe play one of a Raiden as well as the 4 Shiden now that I'm thinking back, because the reason why I upped my copy of Shiden to 4 instead of 3, like I normally do based on the deck list I showed you guys earlier a few months ago for Narukami, this is basically the same deck. I realized that I could be fighting against a lot of Pale Moons, and Pale Moons love their Dreamy Fortress builds in best 2 out of 3, so having extra copies of Shiden to sort of counter that kind of play is really strong, especially when they deny you Limit Break. But I fought against like 2 Pale Moons and I never drew Shiden. I still beat them, but it was a lot harder than it had to be. All I needed to do was draw Shiden and it would have been an outright win, but I never did because I didn't see him enough and I don't have enough draw power in here. So I think running Raiden for like those pesky turns where either you don't have Limit Break and you want to get extra aggression through, or just like as hard counters the things you're expecting like Dreamy Fortress is really good. Another thing I kind of regret is not playing any damage adds. I think these Thunderstorms could be made into damage add Kinkakus and your deck would be exactly the same, plus you would have some playability against decks like Dayusha, MLB, PBO, etc. All in all though, I'm very happy with this deck. It draws way too many heal triggers for me to feel very comfortable with it, but I was confident in my matchups and I played it very well. I like my list. It definitely should have been 4 Dungaree, 9 draw triggers, but you know what? Regrets are there for a reason, so that way you don't make them again in the future. So yeah guys, that's pretty much it for my deck list, my matchup spreads. The only thing I was like really worried about was MLB mirrors, because the MLB mirror is like the worst thing in the world, and so if you have that happen in just your first game and you lose, because that's what happens when you just don't draw the cards you need or you get a little unlucky, you have to now beat whatever's left no matter what. And Narukami has some consistency issues because it doesn't have any engines to sort of help you plus or help you dig for your pieces, and so there were some weird things that happened, like me just having draw triggers in hand, so I have to commit my Jins to board and be like, okay, we're a grade 3 beat stick deck, or I just wouldn't be able to do anything and I would lose. I think looking back, if I wanted to like have the same kind of mentality that I had with these 2 decks, I would have changed out Narukami for maybe Spike Brothers, because it's like an aggressive deck, it can push for damage really fast, and it has good matchups against pretty much the same thing that Narukami does, but it has a more inherent plus engine because you have Jelly Beans as a recurring heal trigger, you have access to Seafried, who's a really good pre-Limit Break grade 3, and you have cards like Devil Summoner, Zachary, Medical Manager, just ways to sort of dig for your resources and push for damage still. So I think Spike Brothers would have been a good call, but like I said, I don't regret choosing Narukami. It's, if I were to do it again, I might change the Spike Brothers, but again, I might not either. I might just make the deck 9 draw triggers and hope for the best. So there's lots of things going on with my mind right now, but overall, I think I performed well given the decks that I brought. But with all that out the way, you guys, let's go ahead and take a look at one of the matches that I played using these decks. Alright boys and girls, here we are. I have the VOD pulled up from Juan's Twitch channel. Like I said, this is an 11-hour plus VOD. If you want to watch the full unedited thing, I'll leave a link down below. There's tons of great games, not just mine, that are casted by Pharaoh Shuffle, GG Mr. Rogers, Juan Mango, and I think some other people like Taikumo and maybe Nicholas come in and share the spotlight as well, so definitely go check it out if you guys want to see some more great games. If you want to see more of my games, I think like 5 or 6 of my rounds were all streamed, so by all means go check those out other than this one. But the reason why I'm highlighting this one, I think this is round 2, is because there's a bunch of different decks here versus what I kind of was expecting. I'm fighting against my boy Travanium, who's playing Nova Grappler Razors, and I want to say Kagero Dote. So lots of different things compared to the MLB, Aqua Force, Pale Moon, etc. things that we were expecting. And so I kind of want to highlight this one. Plus I want to highlight sort of how my thought process is against these different decks versus the ones we already know about. Alright, with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the game. Like I said, I'm playing MLB, he's playing Razors, that's me on this side, that is him over there. So it's basically going to be kind of like this really interesting matchup here where I've always loved this. Oh, by the way, we're both rocking the .x sleeves. Look at that. Huge shout out to Game Studio for giving us those. They are literally beautiful. I love them. But we're playing against sort of similar style decks here, right? Inherit, Crit, Beatdown. Not really an advantage deck on his side. Mine's more advantage, but very interesting to see this dynamic. I said like Happy Valentine's Day, like hey, because Trav's my friend, and I was really gonna have fun with this match no matter what happened. And we are playing similar decks, so let's see what happens. He rides Razor Custom, moves Battle Razor back. Now, I don't remember exactly what my hands were during these matches. I played so many games throughout the tournament, but I'll try and like think about like what my thought process was when I make decisions. I'm riding K here. I could have a Lien in my hand that I want to call and filter my hand because new MLB is all about just digging for your pieces versus just like having it. So once you get like Blaster Dark, Trumpeter, grade 3, you're good. So yep, there's my Lien. That's me saying, okay, my hand isn't perfect yet. Let me commit this and dig for some things. Luckily, Libergal can search for either MLB or Blaster Blade, so once you get Blaster Dark / Star Call, you can grab the other pieces if you need with other cards. So that's what I think I'm digging for with Lien. There's an MLB. Hopefully I have one in my hand, because otherwise that's a bit of a salty drive check there. Let's see the damage check here for my boy Trav. Now, a thing that I'm worried about is that he did go first, so he could be very aggressive against us, go for the perfect Razor, get that critical, and start punching us really hard before we get ready. And if we're stumbling, we could fall behind really hard. So he has the double Razor ride and high powered and Razor Custom, so that's not good. Very good start for him, very bad start for us. There's the Burst Razor Call. He's going to be super aggressive this turn. I kind of like it. He might even boost with Battle Razor to get the extra dig. He does not need to. He can conserve that for the Razor name, and he's going to. Now, the one thing I don't like that he did here is that he actually committed the Burst Razor as a Razor. If he had like a Shout or a Tough Boy or like some non-Razor grade 1, which I think all of them are, that would have been a much better thing to commit, because unless he has more Razors in hand, he has to rely on getting the Razor from Perfect Razors on Ride Skill and then putting that into the Soul, which is actually a bit of a not a fun thing to do because you're losing out on triggers as well as draws, but you gotta do what you gotta do to create pressure. I think he's trying to leverage the amount of aggression he can create if he does ride into Perfect Razor. There's me riding Star Call. Now this is a big thing I want to talk about. When I ride Star Call, that's pretty much a flash to my opponent that I either have a second one or my hand is perfect, so I don't need to hang on to this anymore, right? Because if you don't ride Blaster, like you don't need to ride Blasters anymore because you don't have Wingo Brave, so riding a card that's not a Blaster isn't a neg anymore, as long as you have everything you need. I also had 2 Counterblasts there. I did not use the 2 Counterblasts to search for the Blaster Dark then because I obviously don't need to. I think it would have been an okay play to call it and get some extra aggression back. Like if I have a Marin in my hand, I can call the Marin, swing at Burst Razor, then do 2 attacks to the Vanguard. But that's not where my main aggression comes from. I don't want to be too aggressive early because then I could be punished, and if I don't have another Blaster in my hand, that could be a problem. So just want to kind of let you guys know that if you ever see them ride the Star Calls, chances are they have another one or they're already ready to go with their MLB combo. So there's me using Gancelot, searching for Blaster Blade. I wonder if I go for Lien again. There's a second Gancelot searching for Blaster Blade. You know, when you see 2 Gancelots back to back, you're like, okay, this deck's stupid. He's at 2 damage, I'm at 1 damage. Chances are he's going to see a heal here. Now I'm moving up the Lien to swing at the Burst Razor to kind of punish his play, but I think I move him back actually and call a Marin instead because I want to keep cycling. That could be me telegraphing that I don't have Blaster Dark yet, or I just want to conserve the booster because I feel like Lien's a better card to keep on board than Marin will be because I'm not really going to be going for Palamedes anytime soon, so I have more time to search for a different Marin if I need one for 21k columns. I think is my thought process, because after you go for your first MLB combo, you kind of run out of grade 2s, so having some extra defense dig with Lien's a really good thing. I think was like my ultimate decision. And here we see the riding of Ashura Kaiser. This is a big deal. I don't know why Trav didn't use the Battle Razor skill the last turn to dig through his deck. If you don't see Perfect Razor, you have to do everything you can to get him. There's a Kirara, same with that. I would have committed that instead of committing the Burst Razor. He might not have had it though last turn, so I'm not gonna make a judgment there, but all he has is Ashura Kaiser. Again, still not boosting. Oh no, he is boosting this time with the Battle Razor. Yay, the zoom in got me. We see no grade 3s, just 2 grade 2s. Not looking good for Trav. I actually think he checks no triggers this game, but there's 2 PGs hitting the damage zone for me. So like the whole time, I was actually very afraid of Perfect Razor. So I was a bit scared of like committing anything too early that I might need for later defensive turns. And so that's why I was kind of hesitant to call any of my grade 2s from my hand. But there we go. I'm riding MLB. Now I think I'm in the driver's seat. There's nothing he can do if he doesn't get Perfect Razor. So I'm going to be putting on the aggression. I'm going to be calling the whole board. There's another Star Call. Like I said, I had to. I'm going to use its effect to call Blaster Dark. Even if I have Blaster Dark in hand, I still do this to not only dig through my deck, but also conserve intercepts. Because while there is an intercept on board, I don't want to waste my Blaster Blade skill when I have to inevitably attack it anyway, because I can't call any more boosters. So there's no reason for me to save Counter Blaster, Blaster Blade. I may as well thin my deck and get a Blaster Dark instead. So here we go. I'm just going to swing at the Vanguard, then swing at the Vanguard with MLB. Super simple. Either keep him at 3, PG check him, or just push him to 5, which, you know my saying, guys, if you can't give him 4, give him 5, and you're going to be good to go. So there is the Burst Razor as damage check, no trigger. That's fine. Even if we got one, it wouldn't have mattered. I'm going to be hitting for 26, I think. Yeah, 26 with a crit. Super strong. Going to be 12k going in his next turn. If he does not see a Perfect Razor, me being 12 is going to be super huge, because even if he restands, and as long as I get a defensive and he doesn't get like an 11k attacker plus a boost, he's not going to be able to hit me. So there is the first PG of the game. I think I've seen a PG in Drive Check for Trav at this point, so I know he only has 2 left maximum because he hasn't shuffled his deck yet outside of Battle Razor. So it's very unlikely that he has more than 2 in his hand. There's the double 8k calls, and a Burst Razor, and a Shout. So he has all the boosters in the world, but only has 1 card in hand at 3 damage. If I have a Blaster Blade in my hand, which you guys know that I do because I use 2 Gant slots, I'll be able to hit him very hard during my turn. Currently, a Shurikaiser is not hitting my Vanguard. Very, very big deal. No triggers checked for Trav, which is heartbreaking, but it could mean that he gets plenty of heals and draws defensively, which could save him in the game. So, you know, blessing in disguise. There's a Blaster Dark. But yeah, I have 2 counter blasts. He has only 2 intercepts. He's at 3 damage. I'm looking really good. Even if I only have even if I have no other boosters, I'll be able to push for game this turn. So if that last card in his hand is not a PG, he will go to 6 damage. There's a 3rd Gant slot. So at this point, all Gant slots are in deck. I'm at 19 cards in deck. I am at the bigger damage count, so I will be able to heal most likely when I swing for game. So, you know, even if he does PG, I'll be back in the swing of things. There's the Star Call swinging at the AK. You know, seeing weak rear guards is really nice. Lets you conserve less. You see me here. Okay, so I make a very weird judgment call here. So this is kind of my play of like, okay, let's PG check him first and then pass, because my thought process was, okay, there's a Burst Razor there. He has 1 card in his hand. If that 1 card is a Perfect Guard and he top decks a Perfect Razor and he has 2 damage, he'll be able to get off his critical. I don't have any PGs in my hand. I remember this. I don't have any PGs in my hand, so I will die to a Perfect Razor if he can get it off. I then realized, oh, he can't get it off. I have 2 intercepts. But, you know, I want to be as safe as possible, and I thought checking for the PG first and then pushing for the 5th damage if I got double triggers was the better way to go, or not giving him the 2 damage at all. I think I do decide against this, so I think I misplay here by not going for that 4th damage first. I maybe was also trying to dodge damage triggers as well. I can't exactly remember my exact process, but I definitely like weighed my options, and I thought going for this first was best. As you can see, he did not have the PG, but I did get a trigger and he got no triggers. So even though I technically in hindsight made the wrong play because of that trigger that I got and he didn't get any, I ended up winning still, or sorry, spoiler alert, I win this game, but I still get that 6 damage check. So while I may have had a good thought process, it ended up being the wrong play, but, you know, good play is rewarded. So I was able to still have a swing for game here, despite making a misplay, trying to cover for a thing that I shouldn't have been worried about. But I definitely think I was in the right state of mind for making that play. I just didn't have to, but still ended up with the win. That felt really good. GG and Fair are probably commenting on like, why did Steven attack in that order? He could have almost not won that game that turn, but it's not like he was gonna lose the next turn anyway. So yeah, that was probably really fun. Moving on to the second game me and Trav played. Okay, here we are at the second game between me and Travinium. Now, if you guys don't know how 2-deck format works, basically it's Conquest style. You have to win with each deck once. So once you win with one of them, you take it out, and then you have to win with the second one, and that's how you get your 2 wins per round. I wish you could just use the same deck back to back, because if you know your opponent's decks, you can just be like, oh, you can't beat MLB or you can't beat Narukami, so just like use that one deck both times, right? But no, you have to win with both of them. So I'm switching here into Narukami, but as you can see, Trevinium is using his Kagero deck, his dope deck, and I did not think he was gonna do that. I thought he was gonna stick with Perfect Razor, because I'm playing a Limit Break deck, and I thought he was gonna try and like damage deny me and stuff, but he's playing Kagero, so I'm a bit more relaxed because he doesn't have like an outright counter to my main aggressive play. But I do think Narukami v Kagero is a bad matchup because they can kill our boosters, and besides Death Scythe, I can't kill his, so they can get really good advantage against us. So despite my aggression, I do have sort of a back foot against this deck. But like I said, I'm very confident with Narukami, and I know a lot about Kagero, so I know this matchup very well just by having my brain work. So let's see what happens. I think I'm going first in this game. I am. That's super cool. This is from my perspective now, so I'm on this side, and then he's on the other side. There's the Conroe. Here is my Seishin. Conroe v Seishin is always really cool. I'm a big fan of always giving them damage, but luckily I'm going first, so I don't have to make that decision. So I wonder if he's going to give me the damage and risk losing his Conroe. It depends on your hand as the Kagero player, but as the Narukami player, you don't care, because either you kill Conroe, you kill Airmo, which is a good kill no matter what happens. He rides the Bari there, which tells me that that Conroe is going to be the most important thing in the world. So if he attacks me here, it's a big old misplay. He does swing. Now, I will say that, like, if you want to, like, 5-head yourself, like, go into that mindset of, like, oh my god, he must have 2 PGs in hand, right? Don't do that. I've been known to do that. I like to think just very blandly, like, okay, that means his hand has no more great ones, therefore Conroe is very, very important. Get rid of Conroe. You could have the thought of, don't get rid of Conroe. What's he going to search for? An Airmo? Just kill anyone when it comes out. Kill the Conroe. Always kill the Conroe in this scenario. Don't be too in your head, you know, don't make those mistakes like I do all the time. Okay, it's my turn. I wrote a Phoenix, which isn't the best. That's why you play 2. You don't play 2 so you can use it twice. You play 2 so you can use it once, even if you ride it or damage check it. There is the Garuda, my SP Garuda, so that's super cool. I will be getting the free, just kill Conroe, move on. I will be going a little aggressive here because, like I said, I'm not the biggest guy in the world of, like, countering Conroe, because either he gets PG or he gets Airmo. Given that he wrote a PG, I don't care if he gets one, because he needs 3 on my big 5 damage turn with Vermilion, so who cares? And if he gets Airmo, I can just kill that when it comes out. So I don't care if he gets the defensive here and I see no trigger. That's the same likelihood this early in the game, so I'm going for extra damage because I know that I need to leverage as much aggression as I can early against Kagero because they have so much late game advantage. / aggression if they're playing 4 blockade. So there's my Dungaree check. So even if he got defensive, I could have countered it, which is nice. I get the nice push to 2 damage and the killing of Conroe here, which is super good for us. There's 2 really good grade 2s going to the damage zone as well. Berserk Dragon is quite the scary card in this matchup, actually. So I'm just really glad to see that go away. If I'm the Kagero player, my best move would probably be to, like, ride Strike and call Bellicosity, call Berserk Dragon, and there's an ad. And we're back. Ad is over. Man, I guess my sub to Juan Mango ended. That's a shame. Okay, it is now Trav's turn. Like I said, a Berserk Dragon, Bellicosity plus Striking, like that combination of cards is the best combo here. Doesn't even really need boosters because he doesn't care about doing more than 1 damage this turn anyway. Because if he has like an early Dote in his hand, he can actually push me to 6 damage with add Link 2. So there's the Berserk Dragon. Do we see the Bellicosity Dragon to make it super hot? And there it is. Yes, okay, I think I remembered this game a lot more than I thought. But yes, that's a very good collection. I don't know why he's moving the Berserk Dragon to the back row. I don't have any early game front row retire. Maybe he just wanted to, like, avoid losing it because he has no more intercepts in hand. But, like, yeah, I don't know what the moving to the back row accomplishes because I don't have, you know, like the only thing I can think of is like a Shiden outplay because, like, I could commit 1 Shiden, get rid of both intercepts, and then just attack. But, like, you putting it into the back row does the same thing. So now if I have a Shiden, I can get rid of all your intercepts. So I'm not sure the thought process there at all. I think I do have a Death Scythe in my hand, and I think I will use it just to clear his board because if that Berserk Dragon is that important to him for him to put in the back row, I need to kill it. So this is like a weird play that I wouldn't normally make, but given the way my opponent is playing, I kind of have to respond to it in kind. It could be a bait to make me waste Death Scythe, but I don't think that's true. And yes, here it is, the curse of the tournament. This happened way too much. I rode Jin, the Lightning Flash, I think, in half of my games because for some reason that card is the card I draw the most, and I hate that. But you know what? It is what it is. I'll make the best of it. Luckily, I'm not limit break yet, so being on Vermilion isn't the biggest deal in the world. At least he still hits 14 like Vermilion does, so they do kind of the similar thing on Vanguard at this point in the game. So it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it could be later on. And there is my Death Scythe. I think I made a misplay here in sequencing. I should have called, I think I have a Rising Phoenix in hand. I should have called that first and then committed the Death Scythe and the Garuda and the Stormy after that, but whatever. There's the Death Scythe swing, so I'll be able to swing for potentially 2 more damage here, pushing my opponent to 4. Given their lack of rear guards, I don't care about Dote anytime soon. Dote's only really scary when you can kind of get 4 attacks out of it, as well as, you know, your draw power. But if you don't get like your 3 attacks or your 2 attacks because your board's empty, you're not as terrified of it. But there's a draw trigger that's super huge, letting him rebuild his offensive board after all the damage I did. But luckily I got a trigger as well, so I'll be able to still push. Here you can see Stormy not putting in as much work. Had that been a 9k Vanguard and I saw no trigger, I still would have been able to hit. So Stormy can have some really good early game synergy, but in scenarios with 10k Vanguards, sadly she cannot. But there's a Dote hitting the damage zone as well, so that's always good to see. That's 1 less Persona Blast, 1 less restand. That's honestly why I've been starting to play more Berserk Dragons in my list, because you don't restand 3 times every game, so you don't need 3 restands worth of counterblasts. All you really need is like 1 restands worth of counterblasts in most Dote lists nowadays, which is nice. But there is the strike, and he didn't go for the Dote. I feel like if he had the Dote in his hand plus the Persona Blast, that would be the better play, because he could potentially push me to 6 damage, which if I don't have PGs, which given that Narukami doesn't really draw the most cards in the world, is a good, fair assumption to have. It could have been very scary. Instead, he's going for the Draconic Overlord plays. I think that's because he has very few rear guards in hand, so he's going to try and clear my intercepts and then push for damage. I think the calling of that Bellicosity Dragon is more for intercepts than for anything else. I don't think he's planning on countercharging or boosting it. Yeah, he's just going to have it like sort of be there. I think he makes a play this turn that I don't agree with. I forget what it was. Oh, maybe it's that he attacks with his Vanguard first here. Now, if you're going to be like the guy that's like, okay, I'm afraid of you checking a defensive, fine. I would have, because you're on the back foot, you can't afford to play it safe. You have to push for ways for you to win the game, not just kind of survive, because at this point, the longer the game goes on, the closer I get to winning, not the closer you get to winning. So I would say pushing for that 3rd damage first, and then possibly PG checking me / forcing me to hit a defensive to not take the damage, I think is the better play, because it forces more out of me than it does out of you. But he sees no triggers here, I don't think, either. Nope, he doesn't. So if I don't see a defensive on this first check, it was definitely a misplay. I don't remember what happened, but we'll find out. I don't. It's actually a PG as well. And there's the draw trigger. Yep, so I would have definitely 100% swung with the rear guard first and then the Vanguard first in hindsight, but I also would have done it anyway because it's really the only play you can make to advance your game state and not just kind of stay the same. But I'm sure after the last game, after seeing how many triggers I hit, he was just like, oh no, you know what, he's gonna get it, he's gonna get it. And I know how that mentality can go. A saying that I like to say is like, your mindset when playing Vanguard should be that triggers affect the game, they don't affect you. Do not let triggers affect you in the way you play, let it affect the game, right? That's what I would say. So just have that mentality, anyone out there that's like worried about triggers, because in a best 2-3 scenario, you can be like, my opponent's so lucky, he's gonna get it all the time. No, he won't. He'll get it as likely as you would be able to get it, right? That's all it is. Here you can see me not having a Vermilion again, and so I'm just stuck on this. Now that I'm at 4 damage, I wish I had Vermilion. Had I had Vermilion and he did not kind of PG check me or leave me at 3, I could have severely punished the play he went for last turn, but sadly I do not, because Narukami cannot find its grade 3s and I keep damage checking my Vermilions. So there is a Shiden though, so it's basically like I have a Vermilion in my hand because I'm able just to push for damage, but sadly I cannot create any better columns because my hand is just full of 10Ks and 9Ks and no 11Ks, so that chicken is sort of wasted over there. But it is better than not committing anything, because if I get a trigger I can hit. If he doesn't get a trigger, I do get to hit him at least once, which is nice. And now I'm going to make an interesting play here, where I swing at the Bellicosity. In hindsight, swinging at the Dote, or sorry, the Overlord is the same thing, because he can't, I was like afraid of like, okay, he can boost, swing with Bellicosity, countercharge 1, have Dote, and then restand, because now he has 2 counterblasts, but I have 2 intercepts, so we can't do that. But it was a possibility in my head. But it's still the intercept, and it gets rid of it, and I don't have a Vermilion in my hand, so I can't respond to intercepts. There's the beautiful Dote on ride animation. There's a blockade, and now he's at cross ride, but still no boosters, man. He has seen no grade 1s. That early killing of the Conroe was super huge. No airmos for hand thinning for more cards like grade 1s and 2s. Super value for us. Honestly, hurt him a lot. He is swinging with the Vanguard at the rear guard, and then giving the power to the Vanguard. I think he thought he was at 2 counterblasts or something. I'm not sure where that play was made, but if you had 2 counterblasts, I would have swung the thing at the 10k, a blockade at the 10k, left the Overlord rear guard standing, then swung the Vanguard to the rear guard, counterblast to restand, then swing your 11k, then swing your 8k. That's the best way to maximize your thing. And look, another Vermilion draw trigger going to the damage zone. That hurts my heart to see, ladies and gentlemen, but don't you worry, because birds of a feather flock together. So that draw trigger was right next to another draw trigger, and I have Vermilion in my hand now, boys and girls. There he is. There's the boy. Sadly, Miwa doesn't have a Vermilion ride animation, so we just got to see that. Here is the calling of Red River Dragoon, which, thanks to Vermilion's counterblast on the mid-break, will make him a 24k column, thus hitting cross ride. And because my opponent has no intercepts, I can swing with a rear guard first, hit him to 18, slash potentially 23, and still hit him with my Vanguard. I think I have like 2 grade 3s in hand, or a grade 2 and a grade 3 in my hand. I'm deciding like the best way to call them down, because I can either have 2 intercepts, or I can have 3 attacks that potentially hit the Vanguard. And I think I go for the aggressive play versus the defensive play, because I have only 1 PG in my hand. So let's see what happens here. Yes, so I do go for the Jin on the side. I think I had the choice between another grade 2 in my hand, which would have allowed me to have 2 intercepts going into his turn no matter what happened. But I decided for this because I want to try and push for game here, because in my mind, Trav only has 1 PG and not 2, and so if I can have 2 attacks at him for game, he'll lose, is my thought process. So there's the 15 swing. Like I said, my Vanguard's hitting 24, so as long as we don't see a trigger here, yes, we do not, I can swing with the Jin. Let's see the PG in his hand. There it is. Okay, is that last card in his hand a PG? Even if it is, I get rid of his entire board and his entire hand. I have an intercept, plus I have at least 1 PG in my hand, I'm pretty sure. I wouldn't have made this play if I didn't. So I'm looking very, very good, even if that last card in his hand is a PG. Let's find out if it is. My first check, my second check, both grade 1s, doesn't matter. And the attack, and it is for game, boys and girls. Do we see the 6 damage heal? We do not. Let's go, boys and girls. Clean 2-0. Awesome. Sadly, in the very next round of this tournament, I did end up getting my first loss. Luckily, surprisingly, it was against the person that actually eventually won the tournament by going undefeated throughout the whole thing. So you know what? I was simply in his way, and it takes a true champion to beat another true champion. So shout out to Fleurs, I think his name was, like the flower, like the French word for flower, I think. So huge shout out to you. But yes, Trav, thank you for the amazing games, but sorry, some luck didn't go your way. But I think my thought process and your thought process through playing those games were really interesting to watch, and sort of just like how the decks tend to flow. You saw MLB flow very nicely, and then you saw Narukami not flow as nicely, but still put up really good columns / really good pressure despite that. And there you guys go. That is my tournament report plus deck list plus gameplay demonstration from the Juan Mango 64 Vanguard Zero birthday celebration tournament this past weekend. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications. If you want to watch the full unedited VOD from the tournament, link down below to that. Go give my boy Juan Mango a follow as well. He puts on all kinds of amazing content and deserves your support. While you're on Twitch and you want to follow me as well, by all means go ahead. I do go live every Monday, Thursday, Friday. I do all kinds of things in Just Chatting, and I play a lot of different card games. So if you ever have any questions or you just want to hang out, come hang out with me live and in person, and we'll have a good time. And with all that being said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, I've been your true champion, Steven. Please be sure to work hard, rest easy, and live well, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.